What's up, everybody? It's time for an emergency edition of the Next Pats podcast. Thanks for being with us here. We have to touch on this Patriots statement released Thursday night. We're recording this on Friday. Talk about what it means for the Patriots and what is coming next. Let's get right into it just by first reading this two-sentence, so it should be pretty quick, two-sentence statement released by the Patriots, again, on Thursday night. Here's the header. Patriots to extend Jerod Mayo, will begin interviewing for an offensive coordinator. The New England Patriots and head coach Bill Belichick have begun contract extension discussions with Jerod Mayo that would keep him with the team long term. In addition, the team will begin interviewing for offensive coordinator candidates beginning next week. Two sentences, all kinds of meat on that bone. So let's go through them sentence by sentence, and let's talk about Jerod Mayo first. The Patriots and Jerod Mayo have begun contract extension discussions. So nothing is done with Mayo yet at this hour. Again, we're recording this on Friday. Still nothing is done, is my understanding. But there's plenty of confidence that it will be done, and it could be done relatively quickly. This statement would not be put out there if the team wasn't very confident that this thing would be finished up and they would have Mayo in-house long-term. Those are two words that we really should be focused on here. Long-term, what does that mean and why is it in there? Well, let's do some deductive reasoning here, shall we? Jerod Mayo has been very open about the fact that he would like to be a head coach. He is somebody who is now coveted across the league. He had a defensive coordinator interview opportunity with the Cleveland Browns. I reported on Friday morning he had told Cleveland that he would not be interviewing for that position. Thanks, but no thanks, essentially, was the message from Mayo. Again, coming after the statement released on Thursday night, that's significant. He also has, and up to the minute that we're recording this, still has the opportunity to go interview for the head coaching position with the Carolina Panthers. Now, will he actually go for that interview? Will he go and meet with David Tepper, understanding that he has something that he's on the verge of signing here in New England, an opportunity that he is excited enough about that he would be okay with the team releasing the statement that it did on Thursday? And it is my understanding that he was okay with that statement being released. This is not a pressure tactic by the Patriots to put this statement out there and in some way try to hinder any opportunities that might be coming Jerod Mayo's way moving forward. They just wouldn't do that. The relationship between the Kraft family and Jerod Mayo is really, really strong. Robert Kraft and Jerod Mayo in particular are close and have been close for a long, long time. If you go back and you actually find Jerod Mayo's retirement announcement when he retired as a player, you'll find him referring to Robert Kraft as Thundercat. Okay? These guys are friends. They're close. Robert Kraft really highly values Jerod Mayo, and so he wouldn't use this statement to strong-arm his way to keeping someone who he knows is a valuable coach and means a lot to his franchise right now and could mean a lot to his franchise moving forward. So Mayo signs off on the statement. He wants to be a head coach. He's getting interest elsewhere. This situation has a lot of similarities to what happened in early 2018 with Josh McDaniels. Let's think back to that period in time. McDaniels, coveted head coaching candidate, somebody who had failed in Denver, obviously, but many years later had worked his way back into the good graces of owners who were considering him for their head coaching positions. He goes to Indy, he impresses Indy, he gets an offer from Indy, and he accepts. And then at the 11th hour, the Patriots swoop in and say, hey, what can we do to make sure we keep you around? And I think if you're Josh McDaniels in that moment, you say, boy, I love this offer. Could you not have come to me with this a couple of months ago before I started fielding interest from all of these teams? Because this is where I want to be. I want to be in New England. My family is here. I like it here. I am fulfilled here. And now you're offering to raise my level of pay and potentially consider me to be the next head coach here in New England. if and when Bill Belichick decides that his time here is up. That sounds pretty good. And the Patriots were able to keep McDaniels for a time. We know eventually what happened, right? He ends up in Vegas, essentially, is my understanding, in large part because nobody knows when Bill Belichick is going to retire. Now, he's closer to it now in 2023 than he was in 2018. He's 71 now. He was 66 back then. So maybe the end is significantly closer now for somebody like Jerod Mayo to be looking at a similar sort of opportunity. If you're the Kraft family, picture it this way. Wouldn't you feel comfortable saying to somebody like Jerod Mayo, who you value as you valued Josh McDaniels years ago, Jerod, we want you here. We know you want to be here. Your family's here. Your wife is from here. In your heart of hearts, if everything was equal, you would love to stay here. Why don't we be proactive here in a way that we weren't with McDaniels years ago? Offer you a deal that is enticing enough for you to stay, enticing enough for you to maybe even eschew head coaching interview opportunities elsewhere so that you can be in the place you want to be, feel fulfilled, feel like you have the opportunity for professional growth and professional development, which we know is important for Jerod Mayo. And that way we make sure we have a valuable assistant to Bill Belichick in the here and now, a potential head coach for our franchise moving forward, and a leader for a team that seems to be losing leadership at both the coaching and player levels year after year after year. Why don't we figure something out now so that you aren't enticed to take an opportunity in Carolina, or if Arizona comes calling and they want to interview you for your head coaching position, or maybe this weekend there's a team that loses in the wild card round, all of a sudden they're looking for a new head coach, and now you have another suitor. And by the middle of next week, if we weren't to make a move for you, Jerod, we'd be kicking ourselves in the front offices at One Patriot Place because maybe you have an offer, maybe you have multiple offers for a job that's going to pay you a handful of millions of dollars every year. And we're going to lose you, lose our leader for our defense, lose a potential Bill Belichick successor all in one fell swoop. We want to avoid that. And we know you want to be here, which he does. I can tell you that. I wrote about Jerod Mayo and what the Patriots could and probably should do with him to make sure that he's around earlier this week on NBCSportsBoston.com. So why wouldn't you say all those things to Jerod Mayo if you're the Kraft family? And if you're Jerod Mayo, why wouldn't you accept? Well, you might not accept because you really, truly are desperate to be a head coach. And you so value these opportunities for professional growth that you're willing to pick up your family and move to get that opportunity. Now, what kind of opportunity would merit that kind of lifestyle change for Jerod Mayo? I don't think it would be defensive coordinator opportunity, which is why it didn't shock me that he turned down that Browns interview opportunity. He is, for all intents and purposes, very much a defensive coordinator type of coach here in New England. Now, obviously, Steve Belichick is the one calling the plays on game days, but I can tell you, Jerod Mayo runs the meetings. He is someone who will get to the front of the room and sound like a CEO for the Patriots defense. He gets energized by people working together. He loves having the opportunity to communicate and achieve a common goal with a variety of different types of people within those defensive meetings. And I was told by a player this week, if they were to lose him, if the Patriots were to lose him, it would be a quote-unquote huge loss. Steve Belichick would probably take on more. He would suddenly be running the meetings, something that he did as a safeties coach and as a outside linebackers coach here in recent years with the Patriots. Those are smaller groups. It's a little different animal when you are in front of an entire defense and you are the guy running the show. But that's not to say he couldn't do it, Steve. But it would be a huge loss for the Patriots to lose that personality, to lose that voice, to lose that leadership on the side of the ball, by the way, that carried the Patriots in 2022 and ended up being one of the best defenses in football. almost no matter what statistic you're looking at. So Jerod Mayo could look at a head coaching opportunity and say, guys, thanks, but no thanks. If I get a shot here, I'm going to have to take it, whether or not you think of me as a potential Bill Belichick successor. But again, deductive reasoning would tell us, right, somebody who wants a head coaching opportunity and wants to be in New England, what would be his dream job? His dream job, I think it's safe to say, would be to be Bill Belichick's successor. And the Kraft family probably can't and wouldn't want to put that in writing anywhere. But could they, by showing an overt commitment to Jerod Mayo this offseason, making sure they don't lose him? Could they communicate to him in some way that whenever Bill Belichick walks out that door, you're going to have every opportunity, Jerod, to walk through it? I think so. That to me is the biggest takeaway here as it relates to Jerod Mayo and this statement. Those two words, long-term. What does that mean? Because I don't think Jerod Mayo would say no, and we'll see how he handles this Carolina Panthers interview opportunity and maybe others that could be coming into him. But I can't see him saying no to those just for a pay bump here in New England. I can't see him saying no to those even for a title change here in New England. To me, there would have to be something a little more significant than that. And if it's not a promise that he's the next head coach, it's a nod, it's an acknowledgement, it's a handshake that he'll have every opportunity to pursue that dream job in due time, in the place that he really has never wanted to leave. Would he be willing to leave for the right opportunity if he felt like he was blocked here and that professional development just can't come in Foxboro for a variety of different reasons? Yes. But does he want to be gone? No. All right, let's hit the second aspect of this statement, the second sentence in this statement. And just the sheer use of the words offensive coordinator, to me, say a lot. And this, to me, is almost the meatier portion of the statement, because I think this would mean more, in some ways, to the Kraft family. There's some more urgency, in my opinion, when it comes to everything that happened on the offensive side of the ball this year and what it could mean moving forward for this Patriots offense. This is, in my opinion, ownership saying, we know this was bad. We know this needs to be fixed. And even though we won't tell you, Bill Belichick, who to hire to be your offensive coordinator, we are telling you, you will be hiring an offensive coordinator. Not an offensive assistant, not an offensive line coach who coaches plays, not a quarterback's coach who coaches plays. This is going to be the CEO of your offense, whoever this person is. And now that they've used those offensive coordinator words, there are must-haves that come along with that when it comes to the hiring process. This has to be a formal hiring process. Hiring an offensive coordinator means you must satisfy the Rooney Rule. That means one outside minority candidate has to be interviewed. And I would imagine, if you're concerned, as ownership seems to be, about going through a legitimate hiring process, you're going to be bringing in several different candidates from multiple different types of backgrounds. You may have a favorite, and my inkling is the favorite is Bill O'Brien, but you still have to go through this process. And you're going to get to know a handful of qualified people, experts in their field, something you were missing this past season, in order to put your team, your quarterback, and the franchise overall in the best position to succeed starting next year and beyond. An offensive coordinator here being mentioned in the statement, it's also worth me mentioning right now, is important because if the Patriots want to interview someone who is a position coach, for instance, who is currently employed by another NFL team, you have to offer up that OC title. It can't be an offensive assistant. It can't be another position coach title. If you want to interview a tight ends coach that you feel like is young and up and coming and promising, if you want to interview a receivers coach who you think might have a chance to be an offensive coordinator, if those individuals are still under contract with their current teams, they can be blocked by their current teams if they're not offered the official promotion of getting the offensive coordinator title, right? So by doing this, you open up your pool. By announcing this the way you have with this statement, you open up your pool of candidates, right? This, again, this is going to stretch beyond, or at least you have the ability to stretch beyond now, guys that are out of the league, Bill O'Brien, Jim Caldwell, for instance, guys that are under contract other places and will be paid by other places, but aren't necessarily working for those other places, a la Cliff Kingsbury. Is getting paid through 2027 by the Arizona Cardinals, but clearly has just been fired. Those would have been the types of people that you could hire to be a quote-unquote offensive assistant. Give them a headset, give them the play sheet, let them run the offensive meetings. They're the de facto offensive coordinator, but they don't have the title. So again, by putting the title in there, you now have the ability to interview and maybe hire other different types of candidates. Now, big picture, what does this mean? Why release the statement now? Why release the statement at all before things are done with Jerod Mayo, before you've even started interviewing offensive coordinator candidates and telling us that those conversations will actually start next week? Why? Well, I think number one, it is a press release, right? So there's certainly no question about it. There's a PR element to this that is massive. Kraft family telling its fans, we know this was bad. Don't worry, we're on it. We're getting to work. Sometimes, as we know, Bill Belichick, not all that forthcoming with his plans. Sometimes Bill Belichick, not all that forthcoming with his plans with his assistant coaches. Again, go back to that Josh McDaniels situation. He would have loved to have had a conversation with Bill Belichick about his future, how he sees him within the context, or the construct, I should say, of the Patriots organization, with Belichick still at the top, and then maybe what for the future for Josh McDaniels. He would have loved to hear some of the things that he heard after getting and accepting the offer from the Indianapolis Colts, that he heard from Bill Belichick and from ownership. But that's just not really how Belichick operates. And because the Kraft family is so reluctant to meddle in what Bill Belichick is doing, or at least has been over the years, and I wouldn't consider this necessarily meddling. Again, they're not picking an offensive coordinator for Bill Belichick, but they are telling him, you got to go get one. The way Bill Belichick operates, he's so focused on the here and now. He's so focused on the game to game, and he is so deliberate in terms of his analyses of what has gone on in the previous season and how to attack things moving forward. That sort of approach doesn't necessarily lend itself to quick, urgent action. And so by getting this statement out there, that's ownership saying, no, don't worry, we're getting to work. And if Bill Belichick wasn't looking forward to getting ready to go to work on this stuff, well, now he knows. But I will say this. Bill Belichick signed off on this statement. Did it emanate from his office originally? No. But he signed off on it. So that means signing off on the discussion of a contract negotiation that isn't yet finished, signing off on the discussion of hiring a quote-unquote offensive coordinator, a big, important, and expensive title. He was okay with that. And he kind of had to be. What leverage does Bill Belichick really have when it comes to this sort of thing right now? He does have a boss. He understands that. And the boss isn't happy. And so if you're making the playoffs every year and you're going on a run without Tom Brady, who you weren't trying to keep, who is still playing and might win a game this weekend in the playoffs at 45 years old, 3 years after you said goodbye to him, it all means there's just not a lot of leverage there if this came across Bill Belichick's desk and he balled it up and threw it in the trash. He understands his bosses want something, and he understands that it's his duty to the team to make sure that he follows through on what they're looking for. Because in his heart of hearts, it has to be what he's looking for too. He knows they have to improve offensively. He knows they have to start contending in a way that they haven't over the course of the last 3 years. So, quick, urgent action on two different fronts on both sides of the ball. You're working hard to keep your most important defensive assistant around, somebody who long-term for the future of the franchise could have a ton of value to the Kraft family, and you will be hiring a qualified, competent offensive expert to coordinate your offense. in 2023. There's other aspects to the release of the statement and the timing, that I think are at play here. I think it is in some ways, if you want Jerod Mayo around, for instance, and he wants to be here and he's interested enough that he's okay with this statement being released, and you're close enough that he's okay with this statement being released, then as a team, why shouldn't you try to dissuade others? Again, if he's okay with it, Mayo's okay with it, why shouldn't you try to dissuade others from throwing really enticing, really attractive opportunities at him to try to lure him away? So I think there's a piece of this statement that is Robert Kraft saying, hey, David Tepper in Carolina, ownership groups across the NFL, this is our guy. He's going to be with us. Sorry, but he's that important to us. We had to make this happen. And we're so excited to tell you that we told you before we even got it done officially. But that's what this is. This is a statement from Patriots ownership to the rest of the league as it relates to Jerod Mayo, to coaching candidates, offensive coaching candidates in particular out there who now understand, they're not messing around. That's an offensive coordinator job. That's not an offensive consultant. That's not an offensive assistant. It's not an offensive line position necessarily that they're looking to fill, although maybe that's coming later. But they're serious about making a legitimate hire here. It's a statement to Jerod Mayo as to his importance to the franchise, and it's a statement to Bill Belichick as to how ownership feels, which he already knows, but it's now out there in the public sphere. We need to make change. We screwed this up, and we need to fix it. All right, guys, thanks so much for listening to this emergency edition of the Next Pats podcast. Hopefully by the time you listen to this, it is not all dated, but we wanted to make sure we got something out there for you as you head into your long weekend. Maybe you're driving up north to do some skiing. Maybe you're driving south, flying south to get some sun in the middle of January. Whatever you're doing, be safe, enjoy. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you very soon right here on Next Pats.